So, are we sleepy? Sure? Yeah, because I can't hear people clapping. Come on, one more. That's better. I can now feel that there are people who are awake. Okay, so let me now call upon the next person who is also our chief guest, Mr. LNV Samy. So Mr. LNV Samy is the Vice President of Engineering for Technology Products Division at Unisys. He has over 30 years of experience in the IT industry. He has published several papers in software engineering in a number of international conferences and journals. So please, may I call upon Mr. Samy? A huge round of applause, please.
I think I need some help with the slides, okay, but by the time. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for giving me an opportunity to speak to you today. I think it's a great pleasure for me to speak to a team of creative people as well as innovative people. Okay. And I'm just waiting for somebody to help me with the slide deck getting started. Okay. I think it requires, it's asking for a password. Okay. That's great. So today I will be talking about product engineering and its implications in technical documentation. I would like to probably put this into context of where I am focusing on, because it's not, may or may not be relevant to all areas of documentation. I'm more focusing on technology products type of things where there is a lot of disruptive trends happening. And what does that mean in terms of where the product engineering and the product management is heading, and what does that mean to technical documentation. Okay. Before I do that, I think Unisys pays my salary, so I think it's my duty to, and has allowed me to spend a couple of hours here today morning, so I thought I should do a small advertisement for Unisys before I get started with the real topic. Okay. So here is a short thing about what what I really would like to highlight here is it's basically designing and developing products, technology products, which could be hardware, software, firmware, and to be ready for sale to multiple customers. Okay, and of course there is a production process, but the production process in a real technology product is a very small component. The development process and the support probably is the biggest part of it. And with that, I also then would like to talk about what does that mean in terms of product engineering life cycle. Okay. In a traditional way, it has got multiple stages, okay, which is how we used to develop when I started my development in software in products about 30 plus years ago. And it used to be sequential, okay, what we used to call as a waterfall model. We used to do some research work, and then we do some development work, and then it goes into testing, then it goes into product services, where the documentation, the training, the digital marketing aspects of it, and then the product integration. Then we bring in the solutions team to look at how can you really use this product and convert it into a solution for various customers, depending upon what those customer requirements are. And some of them used to overlap a bit, but traditionally, more or less, it's a waterfall. And then once the product is released and customers start using it, okay, you get what we put into the system called software bugs. And then we start working on fixing those bugs. So that's what we call as product sustenance. And then there is a lot of churn happens in the technology. So we try to keep ourselves with the latest technology. We call it as software product maintenance, in terms of bringing the things up to the latest levels, so that the customers who are moving to the underlying technologies with the current levels are able to use your product well. And then the sustenance keeps going. Then we now start all over again with research and development, and then the next set of development for the next release of the product, and it goes on and on. Whereas if you look at what has happened in the last maybe 5-10 years, the life cycle has changed dramatically. Okay. We are moved from waterfall into iterative development. Okay, and some people say iterative development is nothing but multiple iterations of a waterfall model. Okay, and I don't know whether that is right or wrong. Okay, people have different views. But having said that, I think we have rational unified process. Was one of the ones which came into existence. IBM brought it in maybe nearly 10 years back. Okay, it became a very popular iterative model where you try to run multiple streams of the R&D, the requirements, the design phase of it, the architectural phase of it, the implementation phase of it, all trying to have a bit of overlap, and you have multiple iterations of each one of those phases. And in the last 5 years or so, agile development has really picked up. Okay. And you find that agile really challenges the way traditionally development has taken place and the development mindset of the people. In agile, you have what is called as sprints. And in each sprint, a team of people work together on what they call as stories, which are, I think, roughly equivalent of requirements. And the concept of things like subject matter experts, I'm a testing specialist, I'm an information development specialist, they are all getting blurred. Okay. Technically, in pure agile, there is nothing called SME. Okay. A person who works on the Scrum team is supposed to know everything that is required for him or her to do their job well and be able to deliver. And you deliver incrementally. Okay, so each sprint is supposed to bring in a functionality into the product, and as the functionality goes increasing sprint after sprint, we call it as a walking skeleton. Okay, so you have a walking skeleton of your application of your product, and as the sprint moves forward, okay, the walking skeleton starts running, and then the running skeleton then becomes a real product, and then you think it's time for you to release the product, and you release the product. Technically, there is nothing specifically targeted towards ID at the end of what I will do. ID gets released as part of each sprint, should get released as part of each sprint, information development, and testing should happen as part of each sprint. So that really challenges the way we have conventionally thought about product development and subject matter experts and specialists, and what roles they play. The chief architect, what does he do in agile? Okay, what is his role in agile? There is nothing like that. Okay, in agile, all are considered as equal, whether you are a fresh graduate coming out of the college or a person with 20 years of experience. Everyone has got the same right to pick a story. Okay. and they are supposed to work together and make sure that they are able to deliver in a good fashion. So that challenges even the mindset of the developers within the team. Okay, I have heard issues where, challenges I should say, where people who are well experienced things that they are not being well respected in the team because fresh engineers who has got a lot of innovative ideas, who probably understand the modern technology much better than who have worked on systems with 20, 30 years experience on legacy technologies, sometimes they are able to outbeat them. Okay. Whereas in a hierarchical way, in the traditional way, that would have never happened, because you would have had a phase called architectural phase where all the senior people who had got so much of experience would have spent their life on drafting this 300-page architecture document and thrown it to the designers to get the design done. The designers would have thrown it to the junior college guys who are coming out of the college to do the programming, and somebody else will be testing it. And then the ID team will tell me, I want all the screens to be ready for me to get the documentation ready. So after your product is ready, you give me 2-3 months for me to get my product, the documentation done and my training development done. So on it goes, but we don't have the type of luxury anymore. Okay, we are in a situation today where what we in the mission critical products, what we used to deliver once in 12 to 18 months, we are under severe pressure to deliver, make a release every 3 months. Okay. So how do you make that happen? How do you make that happen in an effective way? And especially if you're talking about mission critical systems, okay, quality comes into a big play. And people like me who are very traditionally used to the system testing, who really gives me the assurance that everything is okay. Okay, I can't get it done in 3 months, in a 3 months development cycle. How do I make sure I get those things injected into the so-called sprints and make that happen? Okay. So what does that mean? What does it mean to technical documentation? Before I go into that, I also want to really look at some characteristics of a world-class product engineering organization. And this I'm probably putting it to context, little more into context with respect to India, because I did this with respect to India for my team as to where my team should be focusing on because I want my team in India to be the best in terms of a world-class product engineering organization. Okay. So by the way, I look after the teams in Australia, India, and China, and I'm based out of Sydney. So I really wanted to spend some time with the team, my leadership team here in India, so that I can give them the view of where they should be looking at in the next, I think we started this exercise 6-7 years ago, and I think we're really fairly extremely good world-class product engineering organization today in India with more than 20% of the patents of Unisys globally coming out of this team in India. So if I look at the product life cycle is long. Okay. And whereas the development life cycle is really shrinking. And multiple customers for a single solution means quality, high quality, there is no chance for errors, and high reliability, high availability and security. Okay, we are very proud of that none of our systems have ever been hacked in its history of 140 years in existence. Unisys is a 140-year company, and we have never had any of our systems hacked in. So we take big pride in security of the systems we develop. So that's one of the key focus areas for us. So how do we really make sure of that? And I think this is specific to us. Strong computer science fundamentals. That means strong in the fundamentals, not necessarily jack of all trades. We are looking for people with narrow focus, but miles deep they can go in. They understand that particular technology miles deep. I don't need people who understand 10 technologies. If I have a person who can understand even half a technology but can go miles deep, they can do wonders for me. And system engineers with inherent desire for specialization. That means they are able to think what we call as a system thinking. System thinking is your ability to think not in terms of components, but in terms of a system and how it really think in terms of systems, but work in terms of components. And that's a really different set of mindset. And people who like technical challenges, and these resources are scarce and expensive in India. And we also look in terms of technology, as I said, depth of technology, depth of knowledge, and depth is more important than breadth. Creation of intellectual property and innovation. And learning and development, I think we need to make investment in terms of training on specific skills. Very high emphasis on technology training and development. And technology leadership and management development, that's a challenge because people traditionally in India are more inclined towards the management ladder than a technology ladder. Okay. And we need people at technology level as vice presidents of technology who are pure play technologists. Okay, they are not managers. Okay, if you give them a team of people, they will fail miserably. Okay, but as a technologist, they can do wonders. Okay, they are probably the best world thought leaders. So we really need people with a mix, with both types of skills, but a lot more emphasis on the technology for you to be successful. Knowledge management is a key role. So if you put these things into context, okay, what I thought I will also talk about is how good are we in our ability to predict technical communications. Technical communications, there are three types, I think they say. One is what you call as consulting type of communication, which is called knowledge type of communication, which is mainly communication relating to knowledge acquisition type of things, or taking advice, consultancy, those type of things. And the other one is conversational ones. Okay, this is where the technology transfer happens and people get clarification for them to get their job done. And then the last one is the managerial type of communication, which is motivational, inspirational, guidelines, the corporate mandates coming through, those type of communications. So what this is a team of professionals, Mark, Stephen, Rosalind, did this one relatively long time ago, about 9 years ago. Okay. And their research, what they did was they really took only the conversational aspect and whether they are able to predict very well the communication, technical communications, okay, for the conversational type. For a reasonable sized, I think it's about 1 year program with about average of 30 people working on this program. I think it went, the peak, the team was about 50 people. It was geographically dispersed team. It had many cross-functional ones so that we can get a reasonable film of real life. And what they did was they really started predicting on a week-by-week basis what type of communication, conversational communication is going to be required for that particular program for that week. Okay. And then at the end of the week, they really went and did a survey on what really happened. Okay. So whether they were able to predict even on a weekly level. Okay. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of the program. And it yielded some interesting results. Let me pull out my... Okay, what they found was at the higher level, they were able to predict only 50%. Okay. But 50%, then they did some mathematical calculations to understand what they couldn't predict. What they realized was they couldn't predict some of the managerial ones or the inspirational ones or the knowledge type of communications. But so if you exclude that which is not part of the study, then they came to the conclusion we can roughly predict about 80%. Okay. And what they really also found was, I think they really also did another one as part of the studies. They also studied whether it is a one-way communication or it's a two-way communication. Okay. And they found that their initial predictions of one-way communication was reasonably way off. What they really landed up doing was doing a lot of two-way communication. Okay. And They also had reasonable, I think still about 20 to 25% of unpredicted communications at a weekly level, and roughly 50% of total unpredicted communications if you take all the types of communications. So why I'm saying this? Okay, it's just got an impact. Okay, and it has got an impact. I'm talking only about technical communication here. Okay, we are living in a world of geographically distributed development happening almost in any organization today. And we have stakeholders in one country, we have the marketing people in another country, we have the portfolio people who are supposed to come out with the requirements, or focus groups in another country, and you have development teams dispersed in multiple countries, and you've got ID teams sitting in probably another building in the same country, and they really need to communicate with each other. Okay? If our ability to predict this communication is not that good, okay, then how can we do differently to make it more effective? Okay? So to me, I think although the study is about 8-9 years old, what this tells me is this gives us a lot of learnings for us to really look at how should we structure our teams for development. Okay? Whether it is information development or ID or technical documentation or testing or pure play development. Okay? How do we really, for us to be successful in a global engineering environment, we need to really look at whether we have everything we need specifically more or less in one location for us to be successful. Okay? And so that is one of the things I think we really, you guys need to look at from your own perspective. Okay? If you think that you are able to do your job remotely extremely well, because a number of the Indian software professionals today work remotely, or remotely in the sense they work for, spend most of their efforts for customers and who are sitting outside of India, and they communicate on the requirements, understanding, and a lot of the things happen remotely, and the knowledge transfer happens remotely, so that we have sufficient knowledge and expertise for us to be successful. And having said that, I think this is probably, the one on the left-hand side is your prediction, the one on the right-hand side is your actuals, okay, and the ones which are dark at the bottom means that they have been able to predict those things correctly. Okay. So I think just I wanted to touch base on this, that our ability to predict really gives us some fairly good insights into what happens on the technical communication side. And we really need to rethink in some of the aspects. Okay. And now I'm going to move into my views. Okay, it's purely my personal views on where I believe technical documentation as a profession is going to head. Okay. I think I talked about rational unified process and agile, and the need for people to be holistic in their knowledge and expertise, and the need for them to work concurrently with development teams. And so what this means to information development professionals is they need to be more technically savvy and need to be a lot more aware of the product, because you are going to be working alongside development professionals who are mostly introverts, who understand technology well, and they talk now number of times in terms of technology which may not make sense to somebody from outside. It may look like a gobbledygook. And so we really need to look at, if you really want to be successful in your profession, you need to really become more technically savvy. And I can see that happening. Okay? I can see that happening definitely in my team, not only in India, I think India and the rest of the world, that they are fairly technically savvy. I have had some ID professionals to whom even the programmers go to understand how this product works. Okay? So that's really where you need to be. Okay? And also I think I've seen the move from technical editing to technical writing. I think they are two different things. And when I say technical editing, I think I also heard that you've got a position called editors, who are supposed to be the godfathers at the end, who do the tick off at the end of the things. But I don't mean the technical editing. Here is you ask the developers to give you the short write-up of what needs to go into the technical documentation, pull them together, make the grammar right, make sense all right, it looks symmetrical across the whole documentation, clean it up, put some good pictures to illustrate it well, and release it up documentation. That's what I mean by technical editing. And I think you need to be able to work with the developers and develop the technical documentation along with it. I think the nature of the technical documentation will change dramatically, which I will talk about. And I think it will become more integral part of the development team, as the methodologies such as Agile will drive that automatically, and the concurrent development of information development along with development. So you will be expected to produce at each sprint information development relating to the wherever that product is in terms of a walking skeleton or a running skeleton or pre-release candidate for the product. And the implication 2 is an experience from our own things. What we find is the ID professionals need to be a lot more customer-centric than ever in the past. That means you don't have to be only technically savvy and aware of the product. You need to understand the business. You need to understand the domain a lot more than what it was in the past. I think we have a product. Traditionally, I would have released, the user guides, the installation guides, best practice guides, how to use guides, and be happy with it, and say, okay, here is the product. Here is all the documentation you want. I've got some training materials available. My services team will help you to deliver the training, and we'll sit with you to work out how you want to implement it for your particular solution. Okay. Today, 2 minutes? Okay. Today, it's changed. It's changing dramatically. Today, it's more about shrink-wrapped software, which will go into meet a specific use cases of customers. So unless you are able to understand the domain and understand the business well, you will not be able to deliver that. It's not only about product. You need to understand how the product is going to be used in the domain, how the customers are going to, specific customers are going to use it, so that you can do well in your work. I think the other one is the democratization of content creation. Okay. So you're going to be seeing more and more of conversational authoring and crowdsourcing becoming a key player in the technical documentation. And I'm being told I've got only another 1 minute or so left, so I've got only 2 more implications. Okay. And then the other one is the structured authoring will change dramatically. And your authoring, what you do, will be more of an enabler to access the information readily. Okay. In terms of, for example, in terms of keeping the digital content indexed, or ability to search, putting some key abstracts for people to understand what this is, where it is going to lead them to. So things like that is what is going to be the area in which you will focus, because as a lot of the things will get taken over by conversational and crowdsourcing. And the last one I'm going to say is going to be controversial. Okay. And before I do that, I think I'm going to take 2-3 minutes extra. Is that okay? Okay. I would like to start with a real life example. Okay. We bought a cot, okay, 4 or 5 years ago for my bed. Okay. And in Australia, normally they deliver you in pots. Okay. And you have to assemble, or you can ask for somebody to come and assemble it. Okay. If you ask for somebody to come and assemble it, it will cost you more than the cost of the cot. Okay. So my wife have very great doubts about my technical ability to do this type of work. Okay. So she said that we should go and get somebody. I said, I'm an engineer. Okay. I will be able to do this. All you need to do is give me a helping hand. Okay. I can't lift everything by myself. You have to hold the other end. I will make sure that the cart will be ready. Okay. I think 4 or 5 hours later, I thought I have done the cart. Everything is okay. And then I did everything, all the final checkups. And then I asked my wife, see, here it is. Okay, we have saved so much of dollars. And she came and sat on the cart, it collapsed. Okay. And then I had to say, then I really found out what went wrong. Then I have to really get into emergency fix situation. I had to go and get run to the hardware shop, get some additional, things to strengthen where it crashed, and it probably did more damage than it was worth it. Okay, so I think I had to run 2 times to the hardware shop because I didn't get the right things. Okay. By the way, I'm a mechanical engineer by qualification. Okay. And finally it works. I think it's still, the cart is there. And then I think about 3 weeks back, we are getting some guests for the Christmas break. So we decided to get our guest bedroom redone. So we decided to buy, and at the time I told my wife the technical documentation, they gave really didn't explain well how I should fit it up. Okay. And so this time so we did it, we went and bought a new cart, and my wife told me very clearly this time, you're not fitting it. Okay. And because we are getting guests, I don't want them to crash. Okay. And so then I said, I will try. And then when we went to the shop, we spoke to them, and he said, don't worry, these are all very simple things to do. Okay. The driver who comes to deliver it, you tell him he will fit it for you. Okay. And I was very embarrassed because when the driver came, there was no documentation. Okay, they have got rid of the documentation. Okay. And the driver came and he fitted it within 20 minutes. Okay. And my wife said, okay, look at this. He didn't look at any documentation. He is not an engineer. Okay. He is able to get things done. Okay. And there is no documentation. Okay. And that's what it leads to my next one. Okay. You will find user experience is what is going to take over. Okay. It may not happen today, but it is happening gradually. Okay. You saw it with smart devices. Apple iPhones were the first one to come. There was no documentation. I used to get my Nokia phones with 100-page documentation in the past. Okay. I think when you get an Apple iPhone, which has got a lot more functionality, convergence of so much of technologies, there is not even a documentation. Okay. And you find that it is percolating to other areas. Okay. And as I said, even a simple thing like a cart, I don't get any more instructions of how to fit it. Okay. And people like me who are engineers really need some well-structured documentation with technical drawings, with the instructions of step 1, step 2 for us to do it. And what I'm saying is that systems will be more intuitive based, okay, and it will be more user experience based type of documentation, and it will be supported by crowd-sourced documentation. Okay. So I got my Nokia Lumia, or Microsoft Lumia as they call it now, about 3-4 weeks back. Okay. So it didn't come with any documentation. So I really was struggling to understand how to insert the SIM card into it. Believe it or not, it's a nano SIM card. It's in an obscure place. Okay. So I have to go into the Google, and then there is a video, because a lot of people like me have found it a problem. Somebody has put a crowdsourced video in there. Okay. I could then realize the card I had, I was trying to insert a micro SIM into a nano SIM slot. Okay. So then I have to go to the Vodafone to get my thing replaced with the nano to put that in. So what I'm saying is that crowdsourced based one will slowly take over and replace. Okay. What does that mean to technical documentation professionals? Okay. I think what you will find is people predict that COBOL will die 20 years ago. Okay. And COBOL is still alive and kicking. Okay. 60% of Wall Street is still on COBOL. Okay. And so you will find that this is not going to happen overnight, but it will gradually shift towards that. And there will always be need. But there will be ecosystems will come into play. Okay, and where the technical documentation professionals will start playing roles differently than what it is today. And maybe the same roles they'll be doing in certain other areas, could be internally to systems on help and other things, and could be on things like focus more on customer centricity, customer specific solution documentation. That is where I think you will be heading to. Okay? So that's my last implication, and this is a summary of what I spoke so far. So I would like to thank you very much for your patient listening, and it's been a pleasure talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samy.